How cavemen really died. It wasn't what you think. You open your eyes to darkness. Smoke stings your lungs. You scramble out of your sleeping pit, but the entrance to your cave is blocked by fire and falling stone. Your tribe screams in the chaos. You're not being attacked by a predator. You're being buried alive by the very land that fed you. This wasn't some movie scene. It's based on real evidence. Because the truth is, cavemen didn't just die from wild beasts or starvation. They were wiped out by things you've never even imagined. Volcanoes, ancient diseases, betrayal, freak accidents, and even each other. And once you see what really happened to our ancestors, you'll realize you probably wouldn't have lasted a week. Brutal nature never slept. Forget the Hollywood image of cavemen casually walking around with clubs and hunting mammoths for sport. Survival was a constant war. The world they lived in was an unpredictable killer. One wrong move, one unlucky day, and that was it. Starvation was one of the most common ways early humans died. Food wasn't guaranteed. A failed hunt meant days without meat. A spoiled root, an early frost, a dried up stream. All could push a group into collapse. Even the best hunters could return empty-handed, and when they did, the weak, children, elders, the sick, were often the first to go. And then there were the predators, saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, dire wolves, massive birds of prey. Unlike today, humans weren't at the top of the food chain. They were just another piece of meat, often slower, weaker, and less adapted than the apex predators around them. Imagine gathering berries in the brush, only to hear a low growl behind you. There's no warning, no weapon in hand, and no time to run. Even if you avoided being eaten, there were the natural hazards. Falling from cliffs while foraging, drowning during river crossings, crushed by rock slides. In a world without safety nets, even the smallest injury, a broken leg, a deep cut, could turn fatal without modern medicine. Death didn't come with a warning. It just came, fast, slow, violent, or invisible, but always lurking. You might think a cave meant safety, solid walls, warmth, protection from predators. But to early humans, shelter could just as easily become a tomb. Caves often collapsed without warning. Loose rock, shifting earth, even heavy rainfall could weaken the structure until entire sections crumbled. Archaeologists have found ancient skeletons buried under layers of collapsed stone, families who likely died in their sleep. Others may have been caught in cave-ins while lighting fires or carving out new space. Fire gave heat, protection, and cooked food, but it also brought smoke. And in small, poorly ventilated spaces, smoke inhalation could kill silently. You'd lie down with your tribe and never wake up. Children especially were vulnerable to suffocation. Without modern insulation or clothing, humans relied on animal hides and fire pits to stay warm. But in Ice Age conditions, that often wasn't enough. A sudden cold snap could freeze the ground overnight. If your firewood ran out, if your fur blanket got wet, if the wind howled just a little too long through your shelter's cracks, hypothermia set in fast. It didn't help that most shelters were temporary. Nomadic groups moved constantly, following game herds or escaping harsh seasons. This meant building makeshift huts from branches and hides, or sleeping in shallow pits surrounded by stones. Rain would soak through the roof. Wind would tear walls down. A hungry bear might smell leftover meat and barge right in. And even in permanent camps, your biggest danger might be your own people. Space was limited. Tensions ran high. Disputes over food or sleeping spots could erupt into violence. Someone could be pushed too hard, struck with a stone, or left outside in the cold, and that might be the end of them. Childhood was a gamble. Half of all children born in the prehistoric world didn't live past the age of 5. For every baby born into a tribe, there was a coin flip's chance they wouldn't survive early childhood. And it wasn't just from hunger or the cold. Even basic things like diarrhea, now easily treated, could be a death sentence. Infections, dehydration, or being born too small, all of it could kill before you could even walk. And if a mother died in childbirth, that baby's chances dropped even lower. There were no hospitals, no midwives with sterile tools, just instinct, hope, and the help of other women in the tribe. Sometimes births went well, but often they didn't. Skeletons found buried together, mothers and infants, paint a quiet but grim picture. Even for children who survived, life didn't get easier. They had to grow up fast. By the age of 5 or 6, they were helping gather food, carry water, or scare birds from drying meat. There was no childhood as we know it today. No toys, no safety net. One wrong step near a river, one misjudged climb for honey, one bite from a venomous snake, and that was it. But here's what's even more haunting. Prehistoric children didn't always die by accident. Some archaeologists believe that when food was scarce, tribes made unthinkable choices. Infanticide, the killing of newborns, wasn't unheard of. If the child was sick, deformed, or simply born during a famine, it might have been seen as an act of mercy or survival. In extreme cases, even cannibalism has been suggested, not from savagery, but desperation. This wasn't just a hard life, it was life balanced on a knife's edge. Ancient diseases we still don't understand. You'd think diseases were a modern problem, something that came with crowded towns and poor sanitation. But the truth is darker. Even nomadic tribes wandering the open wilderness weren't safe. In fact, some of the oldest human remains show signs of sickness we're only just beginning to decode. Take brucellosis, for example, a bacterial disease humans likely caught from handling raw meat or drinking animal milk. Skeletons from over 10,000 years ago show spine deformities consistent with it. Victims probably suffered for weeks. Fever, muscle pain, night sweats, until their bodies finally gave out. Or tuberculosis. Yes, TB, a disease we still fight today. Evidence of it has been found in bones of early Homo sapiens with pitted ribs and collapsed lungs. It didn't need a city to spread. Just close quarters, a cough, and time. What makes these ancient diseases even more terrifying is how invisible they were. You couldn't see an infected cut turning septic until it was too late. You couldn't trace the moment a virus jumped from animal to human, like Ebola or the flu probably did thousands of years ago. And these weren't one-time events. Diseases didn't just take individuals, they took entire bloodlines. A virus sweeping through a small tribe could wipe out every elder, every child. Even survivors were often left weakened, blind, infertile, or scarred. If a tribe lost its hunter or its healer or its mother with milk for the baby, survival for the rest became nearly impossible. Then there's the mystery illnesses. Archaeologists sometimes find mass graves with no signs of violence or injury. Whole families buried together. What happened? A plague? A poisoned water source? We may never know. What we do know is that prehistoric humans were constantly under threat, not just from lions or starvation, but from an invisible world of bacteria and viruses that showed no mercy. They didn't know what was killing them, only that it spread like fire and left only silence, when nature turned against them. Sometimes the most deadly thing in a caveman's world was the earth itself. Volcanic eruptions weren't just myths told around firelight, they were real, and many prehistoric humans lived through or died in them. One of the most catastrophic was the Toba super eruption, Around 74,000 years ago, it's believed to have triggered a volcanic winter that may have killed off huge portions of the human population. Temperatures plummeted, food sources vanished, tribes likely starved or froze as ash blanketed the skies. Earthquakes, landslides, and tsunamis added to the chaos. With no written language or historical memory, each disaster hit like the first one ever. There was no warning system, just signs people couldn't understand. Animals fleeing, a sudden stillness in the air, the smell of sulfur. Then, devastation. And let's not forget climate change. Not the kind we're used to today, but violent, unpredictable shifts between warm and cold ages. In just a few lifetimes, lush hunting grounds could become frozen wastelands, or rivers that once gave life could dry up, leaving nothing but cracked soil and desperate hunger. These changes weren't gradual from a human perspective, they were apocalyptic. Even things as simple as weather could be lethal. A freak hailstorm could kill. A flash flood could sweep away an entire camp. A long drought could drive warring tribes into direct conflict over the last drops of drinkable water. The first enemy was you. We like to believe early humans were noble survivors, huddled around fires, sharing food, protecting each other. But the truth is far more brutal. Sometimes the greatest threat wasn't nature, it was us. Evidence from prehistoric skeletons paints a chilling picture. Fractured skulls, embedded weapons, broken bones that never healed. Some of the oldest known hominin remains, like those found in the El Sidran cave in Spain, show signs of cannibalism. Human tooth marks on human bones. Cut marks made not by accident, but by intent. Why would they turn on each other? Resources were scarce. A nearby tribe moving in on your hunting grounds could mean starvation. There were no treaties, no laws, no agreed borders. If someone drank from your river, they weren't just being rude, they were threatening your survival. And so conflicts happened. Groups ambushed others. Skirmishes broke out. Raids on food caches or shelters were likely common. This wasn't organized war the way we know it now. No battle lines, no uniforms, but it was just as deadly. Then there's betrayal. Within tribes, tensions rose too. Power struggles over leadership, disputes over mates, jealousy, suspicion. A tribe of 10 or 15 people had its own politics. If someone became a threat to the group's stability, or simply its food supply, exile or execution might have followed. We see signs of it in the archaeological record. Isolated skeletons with defensive wounds, bodies buried far from any known settlement, sometimes face down, unceremoniously tossed. These weren't peaceful deaths.